Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is circles of connection. So I spent the weekend at a mushroom festival, which was amazing. And it was very interesting to me and notable to see that I kept intersecting with the same people over and over. Like that there were certain people. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about circles of connection, and I thought it was so interesting that in the last day that I was there, I was seeing people that I hadn't seen all weekend, that I hadn't met at all. But through the whole weekend, I kept re-encountering people that I had met. It was really, really interesting. So we're going to talk about circles of connection and explore what that means or what it could be. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your molecules, all your cells, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's rub our hands together vigorously so that you can feel that wonderful sensation of your palm on palm and all that friction. And then as you stop rubbing your hands together, feel that tingling and tickling and allow all these sensations to bring you present right here, right now, to this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Jenny. So good to have you here with us this morning. So yeah, I spent the weekend at an event called Myco Fest, which was a mushroom festival. And we went, I went on a foray. They had a number of different forays scheduled to be able to go and forage for mushrooms, discover them through the woods. And there was an idea. Good morning, Dido. I'm presuming that's Dido. Welcome. It's great to have you here with us this morning. Good morning, Bernadette. Everybody's piling in. It's so good to have you here with us, Bernadette. So it was a remarkable weekend, and Lamorla, welcome. I don't think you've ever chimed in before. So good to have you here with us. Welcome. So there were all kinds of events, where there were speakers and singing circles and all kinds of things, and I have to say, and wonderful food and all of that great stuff. For me, it was so much about connecting with people, and it was so interesting to see that there were certain people that kept circling through, and the people that I got connected with, those connections just kept getting reinforced. Like, I guess because once you know somebody, you see them more easily. But there were more than 350 people there, and there were people that I hadn't seen at all on the first 2 days I was there. Lionsgate 88, Jenny, what is that? Jenny says, happy Lionsgate 88. So I guess today must be the 8th of August. See how slow I am? Okay, so it's the 8th of August, but I don't know what Lionsgate means. So maybe you'll share that with us, Jenny. That would be awesome. Anyway, it was fascinating to me to notice and then to think beyond this event, how I understand it's astrology, but I'm wondering what Jenny says it's astrology. I'm wondering what the implications of it are. Now you gave me some homework to go find out. Anyway, Bernadette says the weekend sounds great and very informative. It truly was. And making wonderful connections with people. And finding supplements, lion's mane is really wonderful. It's a nootropic. It's wonderful for, actually, I believe it's a nootropic. But it's wonderful for brain function and neuroplasticity, I'm going to say. Anyway, let's get back to circles of connection, because it's funny to me how, like, for this foray, they took us on a bus to a local park where we could, or a forest where we could go and look for the mushrooms. And I sat down next to this guy and we started talking, and it turns out that he's a glass blower. I had been a glass blower. He went to Alfred University. I went to Alfred University. He went to Tyler Art School. I took courses at Tyler and lived right across the street from it. He lived in an area close to where I live, although he doesn't live there now. And so it was really, really bizarre. This was one of the first people that I connected with on my journey in this, over the weekend. And there were all these crazy connections that kind of blew my mind. And so when we think of, like, the people that we attract into our lives and how those connections occur, it occurred to me that maybe we are and this isn't an idea unique to me by any means, but that we have our circles of people with like frequency, maybe we could call it that we are part of networks that interconnect, but that we're part of specific networks. I wonder if that's true. I'm just playing with the idea that we attract our people and are attracted to our people, even if it's a one-time occurrence. Have you ever had a quote unquote chance encounter with somebody that just sort of rocked your world, where you had this super intense connection and it had a lasting impact on you or in you? It's really, really interesting, right? So Bernadette says, funny how the universe just puts the common people in our path to connect with, leaving a familiarity for us to find connection of our own existence. Yes, so I love that notion that maybe It's kind of, we've been talking about winks from the universe. This is connecting with these people. There are, maybe it's more of the universe affirming our relationship, with the universe and with other reflections of ourselves. So Jenny says, I think so, by frequency, that we attract these people. Yes. I just find it so fascinating, and how we're called into other people's lives as well. I had the opportunity to do several sessions with people, and it was so powerful. It was so powerful to be able to be in the right place at the right time for people who really needed, like, I felt like these people called me in somehow, and they felt like, wow, they had a need that was answered by these sessions. Jenny, I'm right with you with the mushrooms there. Anyway, I wonder about this notion of circles of connection, and having been in my life, so feeling most of my life having felt so isolated and alone, to now be growing into a place where I feel like we're reconnecting, almost like we're being drawn together. Those of us that are of like mind or similar mind, that we're being drawn together collectively to be able to create shift and influence in the world, perhaps, or maybe something that looks super random is becomes a pivotal moment and a gift, when different people show up and just say the right thing in the right moment, or when you have the privilege of being that person that gets to say the right thing in the right moment, to just sort of drop a pebble in the pond for somebody else that then has ripples out into life for them. It's pretty remarkable. Bernadette says, I believe we find each other for different reasons, some to love, some to learn from, and some to help us acknowledge a past wound to heal from. And maybe also, Bernadette, maybe even some to allow us to see ourselves in a new light, perhaps. Jenny says divine. Exactly. It's like there's this. So here I was at a mushroom festival. So mycelium is the root structure, for lack of a better description, that is this mycelial network that is the foundation of the communication and exchange of nutrition, not just between mushrooms, but other life forms. Anyway, so there's this maybe human mycelial network too, where there's this energetic network that connects us with one another in this greater intelligence. So Jenny says divine, and I agree. I think I said that already. And Bernadette says a reason, a season, or a moment. Indeed, absolutely. And all of these levels of interaction can be so profound. And Jenny says divine intervention. Yeah, but like it also is, rather than like this notion of external divine intervention, maybe it's even more an expression of our own divinity in our connection with one another. And the exchanges, you know, what if we're all truly one, and we're all part of one big organism? What if we are all cells in one greater organism, and these cells have interchange with each other, you know, exchanging nutrients, exchanging information in their life as cells. So it's kind of, what if we're all part of this bigger mycelial network that is all connected and interconnected? And Bernadette says we are all a fragment of each other. I love it, Bernadette. Yes, so we're all part of this greater whole. Jenny says we are. Yeah, we are. We're all part of this greater whole of life. So when we talk about we are life, this is one of my hypotheses, not like it's fact, but it works for me, maybe it works for you, that what if we are life expressing itself, the intelligence of life expressing itself? And so when we have these connections with other people, it's like it's not unlike when we have new neural synapses happening in our own minds, you know, that there are these connections with other people, with experience, with intelligence, with awareness, with learning. So Jenny says, and consciousness. Yes. What if that's what we are? And all of life is consciousness and life expressing itself. And we get to learn from all these different dimensions. So Rosalind says our attention goes toward what we focus on. What happens to a person with impaired cognitive function? It's interesting, Rosalind, because when we talk about impaired cognitive function, that's measured against a certain standard. But what happens, I imagine, like on an objective perspective, or from an objective perspective, impaired cognitive function creates a different experience of cognition, right? A different experience of existence. So it's another dimension of existence, you know, and of awareness. So given that we were learning and connecting a lot with mushrooms, we were also connecting a lot with nature. And there was a quote, I think it was from Paul Stamets, who's a world-renowned mycologist, who said something to the effect of, just because we don't understand why nature does what nature does, or even maybe notice that nature does so much of what nature does, doesn't mean that it doesn't have its intelligence. It just means that we're not there yet, right? We're just starting in so many ways to wake up to the brilliance of nature. And to begin to be understanding some of the complexity and magnificence of so many of the interactions that occur in nature. that we never noticed, because we were so busy believing that we were supreme beings and supreme intelligence, when if you think about it, and this is such a wonderful perspective shift. Plants have been here for millions and millions and millions of years, developing their intelligence, developing their skills of propagation and life cycles, and animals have been here way longer than humans, right? So humans are kind of the new kids on the block, and we think that we've got all the smarts. But this natural world has all kinds of remarkable exchanges and interplays that we're just now starting to become aware of. And it's really quite remarkable. Jenny says awakening, exactly. We are just beginning to notice this remarkable world around us. Good morning, Gia. So good to have you here joining us this morning. And I know it's not morning where you are, so thank you for being here with us. Jenny says, yes, I agree. It's amazing. And it is amazing, Jenny. And it is beyond our ability to hold in so many ways the complexity of relationships that occur within the natural world. There's a woman named Suzanne Simard, I think, who wrote a book called Finding the Mother Tree. And that's not just metaphorical. There is such a thing as the mother tree. And in the forest, what we're learning is that there are certain trees that they're the mother tree. They're communicating, they're feeding their progeny. They're sending nutrients. They're nurturing and nourishing other trees. And when we start looking at forestry and we look at the deeper existence of our forests and ecosystems, there are all kinds of interactions that our practices disrupt on such a profound level. We're starting to recognize what the consequences are of some of these activities, like when we clear cut a forest, or when we harvest the good trees, quote unquote, from the forest and leave the ones that are straggly. What's happening is that those are the ones that are going to propagate. So it further degrades the forest. We don't look at all the interactions between the microbes in the soil and the bacteria even, and all the undergrowth and the insects and the animals and the birds. Like it is a complex system that has evolved over millennia, has evolved for centuries and centuries and centuries, way beyond humans. And humans are part of this ecosystem, but we don't even recognize our engagement with it, or the levels at which we feed it and it feeds us. We've been, in so many ways, we've been predators, we've been extractors, we've been dissociated from the greater web of it. So Bernadette says it's like the metaphorical movie Jumanji. The humans underestimate the world outside of the human identity, right? It's like the height of arrogance, right? It reminds me of how, of the line in the song, I was so much older than I'm younger than that now, which reminds me also that when I was younger, I knew everything, like the arrogance of youth. And as I get older, I know less and less. And because there's the recognition that there's so much more that we just do not understand or even recognize. So Jenny says it goes unseen or ignored for money, profits, and control. Well, so much of our world as humans is really truly completely human-centered and completely dissociated from the natural world, right? The big corporate control and domination thing is very, very much disconnected from the natural world and the cycle of life, the cycles of life. So Bernadette says we only know what we're subjected to until we ask questions. I think, Bernadette, good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here with us. Welcome, welcome. I think that as we ask questions, it enables us to be seeking beyond our boundaries, beyond the boundaries of what we are subjected to or exposed to. And that's the power of imagination, creativity, question, is to create new openings for experience that we wouldn't have otherwise been privy to. It's a way that we expand our perception, right? By asking questions. We're talking about circles of connection. Bernadette says exactly, but we need the exposure first to awaken the questions. Well, I'm going to challenge that, Bernadette, because I think as children, what's the phase that kids go through where it's why? Do this, why? That's the way it is, why? Right? So the questions are part of our nature, is to be wondering why or how or what. What is that? When we're learning language, what are we doing? We're asking questions or we're answering questions. And what happens is that native curiosity of the wide-eyed child gets squelched, right? A lot of our learning is to learn not to ask questions, unfortunately. But I think that the questions are part of our innate curiosity. I really, truly do. And if we are gifted with the opportunity to be in an environment that stimulates questions, that's even better. That's even better. So circles of connection is kind of what we started talking about, and how we draw people, we draw experiences, we draw patterns, people that represent the same kind of thing over and over, or or sometimes people that expand our horizons, or people that keep circling, that we keep coming in contact with. Maybe they're part of our soul circle on some level, that maybe these deeper connections and interconnections and networks are all existing, that we haven't noticed. So Jenny says, like, Roundup destroys the soil and GMO food causes illnesses and cancer, but it's still being fed to people. Wonder why? Well, yeah, Jenny, that's profits and control for sure. And that's a whole other subject. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me started. I gotta go. Our time for this morning is up, but we get to talk about that at some point. Actually, I'm going to wrap up with this in response to what you just mentioned, Jenny. I was in the mornings, I don't know if this is helpful for myself or not, but in the mornings, I check out YouTube to see what's happening politically, whatever. And I found this Senator Sheldon Whitehouse has been doing a whole series of speeches called the Scheme speech. If you look up the Scheme speeches, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, really interesting, talking about the intention and the whole scheme behind the control of the Supreme Court. Really very fascinating, and talking about how that scheme has been implemented with more than $560 million by corporate interests, by billionaire interests, to manipulate the court to be supporting the corporate ends of these entities. Really fascinating, and pretty interesting the way that he puts it all together. So I encourage you to check it out. It'd be interesting to have a conversation about it. Anyway, Bernadette says, wait. Bernadette says, here's where I'm coming from. I believe our curiosity is always there, but for example, if a child's never seen a star in the sky, maybe due to too much city light, they tend not to ask what a star is. 100%, Bernadette. I get what you're saying. Totally right. So there are circumstances that stimulate questions, and if we are in a limited context, there's a limit to the questions that might emerge. Whew, excuse me. And so I appreciate your clarification, Bernadette. I agree with you 100%. And Isabel says, I was repressed to not ask as a child. I'm so grateful to these times for the past 2 years mostly, to allow me to feel free to ask questions again without fear. I'm so grateful for my awakening from this disturbing concepts I was wrapped around as growing, and stayed for a while of my adult life too. So Bernadette, congratulations to be reawakening that curiosity and willingness of the child to ask questions. That's such a profound gift. And it is through being able to ask questions. I agree too that so many of us are told not to question. We're taught not to question. Don't question authority. Don't question, this is the truth. Don't question it. Don't look deeper. So good for you, Isabel. That's tremendous freedom. So Isabel says, wow, I'm going to look for it for sure. The scheme. I'm finding it fascinating, really, truly fascinating. And anyway, So much love to you guys. And deep, deep gratitude to have the opportunity to be having these conversations with you and to be diving deep into the nature of being together. What a treat, really. What a gift. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page, as well as the Enlightened World Network YouTube channel. And you're so, so welcome, Dido. So glad to have you here with us. And Jenny, I appreciate you deeply, deeply, and everyone else who's joining us and participates, and those of you who are listening and think about these things. Anyway, I encourage you all to check out the other wonderful programming on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as Enlightened World Living, EWN, One with the Earth. And until next time, so, so, so much love and appreciation.